guys, here come the dollies. They got fresh sinkers, hot coffee, and the sweetest smile.
Welcome back to the Clubmobile, everybody. We're so happy to have you joining us today.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back.
And joining us is the man in the uniform, the wearer of many hats, President and CEO of COGG and co-host of What's the Scuttlebutt podcast, Jeff Copsetta.
Well, thank you, girls, for having me. I think I told you in an email. I've done a lot of podcasts, but I don't think I've ever been so giddy, so excited as I have to be on the Donut Dollies podcast. I mean, we're going to have a lot of fun, and it's going to be a little bit of a different episode. Usually I'm in a nice studio with a ring light, but that's not the case. But I think you're going to forgive me by the end of the virtual tour.
You're out in the field today, aren't you?
I am. We are kicking off air show season today.
Incredible. This is definitely a first for us to have.
We're on tour, but virtually.
Yes, we're on the move, guys, but virtually.
But virtually with Mr. Jeff. So for those of you who don't know who you are, can you introduce yourself and what is your part of the World War II historical community?
Absolutely. So for me, my interest in World War II began when I was 4 years old. Both of my grandfathers served during the war. And one of them, he would come to babysit me, would bring his record collection. I'm old enough to we did have a record player in the living room. And he would put on all 3 volumes of Victory at Sea. And that classical music from that old TV show stuck with me. And I had a little toy rifle, and he would put on Victory at Sea, and he would march me around the living room and dining room. And it was then I knew that I was going to be, at some point I'm just going to join the military, and at some point I wanted to help keep history alive. And right after I graduated high school, I joined the Army. September 11th happened when I was in basic training, so everything changed. We trained for about 2 years. I served in Baghdad during the kind of height of the war in Iraq for about 13 months, deployed there, and got a little taste of what ground combat was like. I was a machine gunner on a Humvee, and so I told myself if I get back, I was going to dedicate the rest of my life to making sure that people don't forget these sacrifices. And that had nothing to do with me or my guys, but to think of the scale from the Second World War, just the vastness of sacrifice, the amount of lives lost, it's enormous. So I got into reenacting, and after I got out of the Army, I was a park ranger for about 10 years, had a normal career. And then I got into the museum world and reenacting, and I ran a living history program through the National Museum of the Civic War right here in Central Texas. Did that for about 5 years, and that's what really kind of started the ball rolling. Got involved in some independent films and historical reality TV shows, and the dominoes kept falling, and my role kept expanding. People knew I was a collector, and it just seemed like things were just piled on me. And so I started my own little gig, just kind of going around the different air shows, bringing my display, and just making sure that this stuff isn't forgotten.
Right.
Recently, I kind of really funneled that passion and all of that that I've been doing for so long into this new nonprofit called Conservators of the Greatest Generation, where we are. It's the only nonprofit that we know of that's doing this mission, and that includes creating a national database for museums. I directed this museum right here where I'm at today for about 3 years, and it's, unless you're driving through this little town, you don't know it's here. But there's a complete Northern bomb site on display. So what we wanted to do was, if you are a student anywhere in the world, you could get on our website and through a searchable database, look at how many Nord bomb sites are on display. And so once these museums give us their inventory and we compile it, now these little museums have international access, essentially. Um, Another part of our organization is creating a Valor Vault for anybody that has a relative in World War II, which, statistically speaking, 90% of Americans today have some lineage to somebody who served in World War II. It's an unbelievable statistic. So we want to preserve their family's history. We do the work going to pulling records of National Archives, putting together what their service during World War II looked like with images and documents that help tell the story of what their grandfather, great-grandfather did in the war. And then with their permission to have that accessible to authors, historians, researchers, to tell the story, to pull these, I've been traveling for so much, girls, that, you hear these stories. People come into my trailer, oh, my grandfather, this, and then they leave with, maybe I should have asked them. Or, maybe we should go up in the attic and look in that footlocker again. I forget what's in it. And so that's all we're doing. We're not inventing anything. We're just extrapolating these artifacts, these stories, these family legacies before they're completely lost in this. That, to me, is unacceptable.
It's such an amazing thing that you are doing, and it's such an amazing cause. Like, it's incredible to hear about it.
That's incredible to me because I think about it in the terms of, I never had a chance to ask my grandfather about his service. He had passed away when my father was a kid. My dad was 6 years old. So neither one of us ever had a chance to speak to him about it. We kind of just piece together what we can, what we find in photos, what my grandmother had held on to. We just kind of are starting to piece it together now. And it's been, my God, he's been gone since 66. So this is something that him and I are trying to dig into as best as we can. But what we found out, unfortunately, is that a lot of his records were lost in that fire in the archives in the 70s. And because it was all kind of alphabetical, all his brother's records were lost too.
Yeah.
So whatever we can kind of grab, it's like, okay, well, where does this go? Where does this fit in? Which is why I still think it's so important that if you have somebody alive that you can ask about all of this, if you can speak to a relative
about it,
you really should be doing it, because these stories are, Winnie and I say it all the time, they have to be saved. They have to be saved.
Yeah, they cannot be lost to time. They cannot be forgotten. And I feel like it would be such disrespect upon their name if we all stop talking about it. And what is the thing we always say, Gab? The last time you say their name is when someone really dies.
Yeah.
I think it always goes back to that. But it's an incredible thing, Jeff, that you are doing. How can other people get involved? Would it be as simple as submitting their relatives' details to you guys, or is there another way for people to get involved, like monetarily and stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. There is a lot of ways to get involved. Right now, so the website is operational. Parts of the website are going to be added on as we're kind of designing this, like I said, we're only 4 months old. We're 4 months old. And so we're really trying to hone how we're going to do this, because it is it's an ambitious vision, right?
For sure.
So, and I can share the website with you girls and everything, but really getting a hold of us on the website. There's our phone numbers and emails on there. Because I see us getting inundated once we launch the Valor Vault, for a family member to make a small donation for us to do this research. I have a feeling it's going to expand, because it already has. And to give you an example, our inception is the 2nd of November. February 21st, and I don't know how much of this you saw on social media or whatever, but on February 21st, we dedicated several plaques at the Marine Induction Center, San Antonio, right? 118 Broadway was the Marine Induction Center's historical building. And we had high hopes for a program like that. But again, it's brand new nonprofit. We only had a couple months for marketing. we had like 300 people and several Army and Marine Corps generals, command sergeant majors, and colonels and majors. And of the 8 boys from Weslaco, Texas, that we were truly honoring, one of them being Harlan Block, one of the Iwo Jima flag raisers. And coincidentally, he was the only one from Weslaco of those 8 boys that was killed in action. We honored those 8, and there were 5 others, 13 total, that actually had enlisted together on the roof of this building. And so at the end of our dedication, we had 13 young Marines inducted on the roof of the building under the same flagpole 83 years later. And when folks saw that, I think that's what really helped kind of springboard what this program did. Yeah, you can create a plaque and unveil it, dedicate it. We had a mural painted and all this, and the building looked amazing. But the human story, because usually when you join the military, that's not a public event. You take your oath, and name your parents there, you take a picture, yada yada. No, it's no big thing. But for those 13 boys to march out there on this rooftop in front of everybody, not knowing at all what they were doing, their recruiter just like, be here at this time. Right. So they got the backstory first about the Weslaco 8 and all these thousands of young men that joined the Marine Corps right here in this building. And then they're told to start marching out there to take their oath. They're like, oh, gosh. And of course, their family members got to be there. 7 of the 8 from the original Weslaco 8, 7 of those had family members there. They came from all over the country. So that was a month ago. And to see how much it expanded since then, like I said, it's we're going to need volunteers. Long story short, we're going to need people from all over the country to help us compile this information, pour in to these databases and these legacy vaults and these plaque dedications and everything that we're going to be doing. Because I have a feeling we're going to get buried real soon.
But I think Gabby, you and I should hop in as well.
We're in.
We're in. Sales pitch done. We're in.
That's the beauty of it.
It was a great sales pitch. We're in. You got us.
We're in. Done. Very, very. What is it? It's not. Is it Dragon's Den here? Or is it Shark Tank here?
It's Shark Tank in the States.
We have Dragon's Den, so yeah, similar thing.
You help people tell the story of something that meant so much to their family, and then they want people to know about it, and that's where I come in. I'm just kind of the middleman. Yes, this is my collection, you could say, but I'm just the steward of it, is how I look at it, and that's what I tell folks. I'm not out for your stuff, but if you want to donate it to me, right? Share the story with me. I can tell people, oh, that's a picture of Japanese soldiers, or I can tell about how your dad was in the Navy in the middle of this battle in the Pacific, and he's the one that goes ashore as a scared kid and probably seeing dead people for the first time, and pulls this letter, and thank goodness he did, because now that part lives on, that little moment in time, that insignificant moment on Eniwetok, and that what seemingly insignificant dead enemy soldier, we now know where his wife and kids lived during the war, and his name, and so that's what's important.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I like that you don't not that you don't talk people through everything that's in the trailer, but that you sort of let them self-discover it, because I feel like that's something that with history, if you don't discover it on your own and start to dig through it on your own, I don't think you appreciate it as much. If somebody just kind of belt feeds you facts, it doesn't have any kind of significance. You could sit in class in school and it's this date, this date, this date, memorize this, memorize that. Yeah. You don't grasp it. You don't really find the importance of it that way. If you let yourself fall into it, that's sort of where I feel that people fall in love with it the most. That's how it was for me.
Yeah.
It's absolutely how it was for me.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Jeff, do you have a favorite World War II rabbit hole that you have fallen down? Because like us, we're very much, we find something and we pull a thread and the whole sweater unravels.
I would say, I mean, my biggest interest and the thread that keeps unraveling for me is what you see me wearing. It representing the Army Air Forces has
Mhm.
really, growing up, my childhood hero was the pilot of the Memphis Belle, and Captain Robert Morgan. I got to spend the day with him at an air show in I want to say it was 1996.
Wow.
I was,
Amazing.
yeah, I was about 13, and I had seen, of course, the William Wyler documentary,
Hmm.
and I had seen the Warner Brothers Memphis Belle movie that came out. I think it came out in like 1990 or so. And but so like to me, Captain Morgan, this was like, oh my gosh, this was amazing,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And he had a little sandwich board next to the table that had all of the missions from the Memphis Belle. And if you watch the William Wyler documentary, it makes you think that Wilhelmshaven is the 25th mission, and it wasn't even close. And I noticed, I asked him about it,
It
and
wasn't.
he just looked at me. I'm like a 13-year-old kid. He was like, how the heck do you know about Wilhelmshaven? So he kind of, once he saw my interest and that it was legitimate, he took me behind the table and just, I mean, spent the day with me, and I got to ask him
Oh,
everything I wanted to ask him. Right? It was amazing. But
wow.
so that's part of why I really like representing the Army Air Forces. But
Hmm.
here's probably the most important thing. I could not imagine a more terrifying experience
Mm,
in combat. And trust me, like I said, I've seen a little of it. It ain't pretty, but
mm.
I couldn't imagine being 5 miles above the Earth's surface, not in a pressurized cabin, right? You're on life support. You've got a heated wool underwear, the blue bunny that's
Yeah.
24-volt plugged in, with an extension cord and elements built into it like what you have in your toaster to keep you warm.
Yeah.
All of this other flight gear, you're on oxygen. You've got a headset that's got to be plugged in. You have a throat mic that's got to be plugged in. You've got cords and cables and wires and hoses all over you just to support your life.
Right.
Because you're where humans are not meant to be, and
Mm,
it's 40, 50 degrees below zero,
Yeah.
and you're carrying thousands of pounds of high explosives in this aircraft. And one of the most flammable things is compressed oxygen, which is what's helping keep you alive. And just to think about doing that every mission, it's dangerous enough just to fly in an aircraft.
right.
Yeah.
But then to have the flak and the fighters and the cold and
Mm.
just the lack of just your restricted movement. If you've ever put on an entire everything that they wore, the complete flight suit, you can barely move. And then to
Mhm.
think that a lot of times, too many times, those guys had to decide between you stay in the airplane or you bail out.
Right.
Either way, you could die, but you got to do something. And I wouldn't want to. I mean, yeah, some people, I know a lot of guys that went airborne in the Army, and good for you, buddy. But I wouldn't
Couldn't be
want
me.
to do that ever.
No,
Uh,
thank you.
you know, and I guess that's why wars are fought by, 19 and 20 are a lot dumber
Yeah.
than
No
that.
fear. Absolutely no fear in there.
No.
I think it always strikes us as that they were so young, and in comparison, they were babies. Like as I've aged, I'm like, oh my God, he was just a baby when
Yeah.
he flew 25 missions, and he, was potentially missing in action, a POW. And then, yeah, the way you've just said he was 19 or 20, I'm like, 19 or 20-year-olds have zero fear in their body. So no
No.
wonder,
No fear.
Right.
no
Right.
wonder. I think obviously underneath it all, they were probably terrified. And obviously, there's so many accounts of them not of saying that they're terrified in a letter, but not outwardly saying it to their crew.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Right.
19, 20-year-olds, there's not a lick of fear in them. I
Right.
I'm rereading I'm rereading Masters of the Air right now,
Oh
and
yeah.
there's a bit I just came across where it said that the jeep ride from the briefing room up to your hard stand was where the fear would really get you. When you were
Yeah.
in the air, you'd already done it. You had already done the biggest step, because once you're up in the air, there's nothing you can do except to
Right.
do the mission
You're at
and
the
complete
mercy of
it.
fate at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they said that the hardest was always going from the briefing, getting in the jeep, and being driven to their fort. And that was the scariest part. But once they're up in the air, they're like, well, I'm here now.
Right.
I'm
Right.
gonna carry it on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you have a favorite World War II book or World War II movie?
Ooh, gosh, man, I don't know. I've got like 2,000 books. Um, if I had to, if I had to pick one, I couldn't. I couldn't.
Like picking your
On
favorite
COGG,
child.
actually, on COGG's website, I think I put my top five because they're about very different things. So I think to me, the best memoir, Serenade to a Big Bird by Luke Burton
Yes.
Stiles, I talked about. I think one of the best books about leadership would be Tommy Blackburn's book about his squadron, Blackburn's Irregulars, the
Okay.
Corsair
Mhm.
squadron. That's just it's just a great book on being a young man in charge of a squadron, being a young leader. I think that to me is one of the best ones. If you just want raw combat in the Pacific, Robert Sherrod's Tarawa really
Mm-hmm.
stands out to me. It really does. Um, so those are some of my top ones, and I would say for movies, and girls, you can't laugh. Uh,
We're
you
gonna.
know, they've come a long way. Movies have come a long way,
They
Correct.
have,
but
yeah.
but and I love all the new series, right? I love what they did with Masters. Masters was what I think I've wanted my whole life. Um,
Mm.
but at the heart of it, I think my favorite movie that I watch all the time. I watch it more than once a year. Is Sands of Iwo Jima with John Wayne.
I
Um,
haven't seen it. I need to watch that too. I'm really
uh,
bad. I need to see
it
it.
it is I don't know. It's not the most accurate. They never were. It was done in 1949, but that movie really helped save the Marine Corps because after the war, it was like we really need the Marines
Right.
anymore.
Yeah.
So they put the biggest name in lights, and one of, according to John Wayne, it was one of his favorite roles to play Sergeant John Stryker.
Mm.
Um, and they go through the Tarawa and the Iwo Jima invasion, but it's a
Wow.
story again about leadership and about getting guys to buy into this process. And it's just classic American cinema. Um, that's one of my all-time favorite movies, and probably the Warner Brothers version of the Memphis Belle. I think it's a
I love
great
that
movie. Are there
movie.
things wrong? Yeah, whatever. I don't
Such a
need
great movie.
the new, I don't need all the CGI. I don't need. I have a grasp. I can grasp the concept myself. I've studied
Right.
it long
Right.
enough.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not the best person to probably ask that question because I go to the classics for it.
So, as do
Yeah.
we.
No,
As
we're
do
completely
we.
the same.
I mean, if you
Um,
asked me, I've seen A League of Their Own probably upwards of 100 times. That is
yeah.
Sure.
probably one of my go-to
Mm.
world, like home front side World War II movies. I'll watch it. If there's nothing to
Yeah.
watch, that's what I'm sussing out. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's the one we're looking for. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeff, I do have a book recommendation for you. I've been recommending this to everyone recently.
Okay.
Have you read Five Came Back by Mark Harris?
No.
It's about the five Hollywood directors that enlisted in the military.
I've
William
heard
Wyler's
about
in it,
this.
John Huston. It's such a clunky book, like size wise, but it is incredible. And
Huh.
it made me
Okay.
go watch every single movie mentioned in this book. Of course, Wyler's in there a whole lot
Sure.
with Memphis Belle, and I didn't know he'd lost 90% of his hearing making Memphis Belle, and no one ever seems to take that into account, that him just going as a director and
Yeah.
filming all these missions, he then came home 90% disabled. Um, and then it talks a lot about, their experiences, and you don't really think about it in the sense of that they are also at war. You think of it as, oh, he's just filming it. No, he was
He's up
in
there, yeah,
the
in
plane
combat.
also being shot at. It's an incredible book. I think you would really love it. I loved it, so I think you would also love it. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Are you reading anything
Go ahead.
currently now?
I am. I am. So I've got a trip planned. I'm taking some students to Italy the end of July,
Oh,
and
amazing.
I did. So we went to Greece in 2024. I spent 10 days in Greece with some of my students, and I was caught off guard with how much World War II history was around me that I didn't even realize. I
Right.
didn't really study that much about the German occupation of Greece. so of course, once I was there, I was trying to get caught up, right? And I remember we were, we're in a tour bus basically once we get there, and we were stopped for gas, and kids were getting snacks and everything, and I was tingling. I mean, it was just like there was an energy. I thought I was hooked up to a car battery. And our tour guide, I said, I can feel there's like a battlefield. And I know this sounds crazy. I said, but I can just feel it. And she said, that is unbelievable. She said, well, we're close to where the Battle of Thermopylae happened. She said, it's on the other side of that mountain range, Mykonos Mountains. She said, but actually right here was the second Battle of Thermopylae.
Wow.
I've never heard of that. And she said, there's a bridge that the Greeks were trying to hold. It was a delaying action when the panzer columns were coming down in the Greeks. And she said there was a huge battle right here. It was called the Second Battle of Thermopylae. Couldn't believe it. How did I not know this? So right now I'm reading the second volume of Rick Atkinson's trilogy. He does An Army at Dawn, and then Day of Battle, and then I think Guns at Twilight or whatever volume 3 is. So volume 2 is about the army's invasion of Sicily and mainland Italy. Because again, I never really studied that a whole lot, and I wanted to kind of be familiar with. Oh, Patton. Hang on. Patton's one of my favorite movies too.
There we go.
And yeah.
Stick you in a room with my father. Oh my God.
Man, how did I miss that one? But that movie is about the extent of my knowledge of the Sicily campaign, and that's not fair because we know, I'm sure there's all these inaccuracies. So I'm reading volume 2, Rick Atkinson's Day of Battle.
We need to look into that for sure.
We're always taking recommendations and new books for the quarterly book club rotations.
Yeah,
so we're always looking for something fun to read.
Always looking for something extra.
Yeah.
Well, I would say you should try to get a hold of this one too.
First Navy Flight Nurse.
The first flight.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, it's not a book per se; it's more of a pamphlet. But this is an incredible story about this young lady here. Yeah, there's so much. There's so much out there. But yeah, I think I'm gonna have to leave you with a final thought here in a minute. Everybody's
Go ahead,
looking at me.
Of course.
So it's been amazing, and I hate to cut it short, and maybe we can do this again. Yes. I would say though, for a parting thought for everybody. So my day job is I'm a high school teacher, right? And the reason I got into that was because I remember doing a podcast episode with an author, and he said, oh, kids these days, right? Kids these days, they don't appreciate history. They don't care. They don't know what was sacrificed for them. And the Army taught me a lot. But one of the biggest lessons I've taken from my service in the Army was never complain about something that you can change.
Right.
And it just kind of hit me one day. And, my wife said, you're basically doing educational stuff. You're teaching people about World War II everywhere you go. You should look into being a teacher. So I made that decision 5 years ago. I teach at the high school I graduated from.
Wow.
And this is what I want people to know. Because you'd mentioned it earlier. History in the classroom. We're memorizing names, dates, and things that nobody cares about. And that's why students leave high school with hardly any knowledge of true history. History is an art, not a science. And it's not fixed. History is kind of this frothy, foamy, bubbling thing where stuff always kind of comes up to the surface. It's never just buried. So if you recall, however long ago it was now when somebody tried to assassinate Trump, right? We see the pictures with blood. All of a sudden, the JFK assassination now becomes relevant history. Right? Something today brought something from yesteryear back up to the top to simmer for a little bit. So when we think about history, the important thing to remember is it's not that history itself is gone. It's all around us. History is not history. History is the story of right now, because what we're doing right now and what we do in the future helps us see the history in a different lens. So history in the past is always changing. So it's not necessarily important to know history. It's important to know why history matters. And that's what I want my
Absolutely.
students to, they may not know the names and the dates, and I don't care about that. But if they
Mhm.
know why history is so important and they have the interest to study it on their own, that's when you've got something.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's the truth.
Absolutely it is. Jeff, thank you so, so much for joining us today. We have had such a great time.
Yes. Thanks for
This has
hanging out
been
with us.
wonderful.
Thanks for taking us around the War Wagon.
Yeah.
What a
And thank you for
treat.
doing it from the air show. What a
Yeah.
treat. Correct.
This has
Yeah,
been
it's going to
awesome.
be a fun day. We're going to demonstrate a flamethrower, and we're going to do
Amazing.
a Vietnam demo. I'm going to narrate a little Vietnam demo of a downed pilot that's being
Wow.
rescued by alert team. So we'll do that with
Wow.
a few helicopters in front of everybody. There's a Corsair here. There's an Avenger. There's a B-25. It's
Wow.
going to be a great day, girls. It's going to be a great day.
Send us
Well,
pictures, please. Thank
yes.
you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you.
to everybody
Jeff.
watching at home, we'll see you guys soon.
See you next time, everyone. Goodbye.